In 14 seconds, inside a vacuum chamber, Jim LeBlanc went from conscious to collapsed, and the last thing he felt before blacking out was the saliva on his tongue starting to boil. December 14, 1966, NASA Johnson Space Center. A spacesuit technician enters a massive steel room designed to simulate the moon's environment. Routine test. He's done this before. The chamber is the size of a small warehouse. Triple-sealed doors close behind him. Pumps roar to life, sucking the air out, dropping the pressure from normal Earth atmosphere to something close to lunar surface conditions. Hard vacuum compressed into a room on the ground. LeBlanc stands inside wearing an early Apollo suit prototype, checking seals, testing mobility. Everything nominal. Then, his pressurization hose disconnects. 10 seconds. That's how long it takes for his suit pressure to collapse from 1/4 Earth normal to near total vacuum. He glances at his wrist gauge. The needle is falling. Fast. Too fast. He tries to call out, but there's no air to carry his voice. Sound needs molecules to vibrate. Vacuum gives you silence. And then he feels something wrong. His tongue, the moisture on it, saliva, the thin film of liquid coating the surface, is bubbling. Not from heat, from pressure loss. Your body is a bag of liquid held together by atmospheric pressure pushing inward at 14.7 pounds per square inch. Remove that external pressure, and the liquids inside you try to turn into gas. Water boils at room temperature in a vacuum because vapor pressure exceeds the pressure around it. Scientists call this the Armstrong limit, about 63,000 feet altitude equivalent, the height where your bodily fluids start boiling at body temperature. LeBlanc's chamber dropped below that threshold. Think about opening a can of soda. It fizzes because dissolved gas escapes at lower pressure. Your saliva does the same thing in vacuum. Water vapor instantly at body temperature, forming bubbles on your tongue like carbonation. Except it's not carbonation. It's your spit turning into steam. That's what LeBlanc felt, bubbles forming on his tongue, the last sensation before his brain shut down. Here's what happens next, and this is the part everyone gets wrong. You think you'd hold your breath to keep the oxygen inside. You think you have a minute or two before things get bad. You think the danger is freezing or your blood boiling inside your veins. All wrong. Hold your breath in vacuum, and the air in your lungs expands violently, like a balloon inflated past its bursting point. The air inside wants to occupy more space because there's no external pressure containing it. Your lungs are soft tissue. They rupture. Air forces its way into your bloodstream. That's called an embolism. Your heart pumps those air bubbles into your brain. You die within minutes, not from suffocation, but from air bubbles blocking blood flow to your brain. That's if you hold your breath. Your blood does not boil. Everyone thinks it does. Your circulatory system maintains enough internal pressure, about 120/80 in your arteries, to keep blood liquid even in vacuum. But exposed fluids do boil. Saliva, tears, the moisture coating your lungs. LeBlanc felt the saliva on his tongue bubbling. 14 seconds later, he blacked out. Hypoxia, oxygen starvation. In normal hypoxia, like climbing too high too fast, you black out in 20 to 30 seconds. In vacuum, it's faster because the air explosively leaves your lungs. You're not just running out of oxygen. The oxygen you have is being ripped out of your chest. Your vision tunnels. Gray creeps in from the edges. Your brain stops processing information. Consciousness cuts off like flipping a light switch. 14 seconds, you're aware. 15 seconds, you're not. Here's the critical window. If pressure isn't restored within 90 seconds, you die from oxygen deprivation. Your brain can survive about 1.5 minutes without oxygen before cells start dying. After that, even if your heart restarts, even if they pump air back into the room and your lungs start working again, you never wake up. Brain damage becomes irreversible after about 10 minutes without oxygen. By then, you're not a person anymore. You're a body with a heartbeat. Pause right now and think about this. You're in that chamber. Pressure is gone. You feel your tongue bubbling. You have 3 seconds to decide. Hold your breath to keep oxygen in, or exhale completely and empty your lungs. What do you do? Most people choose wrong. The correct answer is exhale immediately. Empty your lungs so the expanding air doesn't rupture them. Except that you're about to black out. There is no fighting hypoxia once it starts. You cannot stay conscious through oxygen starvation by willpower. The only thing that saves you is someone outside repressurizing the chamber in under 90 seconds. That's it. That's the entire survival strategy. Exhale and hope someone is watching. LeBlanc survived because his ground crew saw him collapse on the monitor. They hit the emergency repressurization button and flooded the chamber with air in 25 seconds. 25 seconds. He woke up with a sore ear from the rapid pressure change. Nothing else. No permanent damage. He continued working at NASA and eventually became a division chief, but his survival depended entirely on speed. Here's the ironic part. LeBlanc was testing a suit designed to protect him in vacuum. The safety equipment itself nearly killed him when a single hose disconnected. He survived vacuum exposure not because of the suit, but because the test was on Earth with a ground crew standing by. In actual space, that hose failure means certain death. No one can repressurize your suit from outside. There's no emergency button. There's no ground crew. You exhale, you black out, and 90 seconds later, you're dead, even if your suit magically fixes itself. The test proved the danger of the environment the suit was supposed to protect against, using the technician's body as the experiment. That's how space engineering works. Someone has to go into the chamber. Someone has to test the limits. Sometimes the limits test them back. Now, think about this. He was unconscious for 30 seconds before they started repressurization. Brain damage begins at 90 seconds total without oxygen. How much time did the crew have left to save him before his brain started dying? Do the math. 90 seconds total minus 30 seconds unconscious equals 60 seconds remaining. They restored pressure in 25 seconds. That left 35 seconds to spare. 35 seconds between waking up fine and waking up brain damaged. That's the margin. That's how narrow the window is. Every space agency studies this incident because it's the only documented case of a human surviving near vacuum exposure and living to describe what it felt like. LeBlanc said the saliva boiling was the last thing he remembered. Not pain, not cold, not fear, just the strange sensation of bubbles forming on his tongue, and then nothing. The physics doesn't change. Pressure loss remains lethal. The body's response to vacuum is universal and timeless. You don't freeze instantly in vacuum. There's no air to conduct heat away from your body, so you lose heat slowly through radiation, like a warm object glowing in the dark. It takes minutes to cool down, but you don't have minutes. You have 14 seconds to unconsciousness and 90 seconds to death. Temperature is irrelevant. You suffocate long before you freeze. The lesson is simple. Vacuum doesn't negotiate. Your body is optimized for 1 atmosphere of pressure at sea level on Earth. Take that pressure away and your biology fails in seconds. The bubbling saliva, the exploding air in your lungs, the oxygen starvation, these aren't design flaws you can engineer around. They're consequences of physics acting on human tissue. Final question. Would you volunteer for vacuum chamber testing after watching this? NASA needs test subjects to validate spacesuits. Every astronaut's life depends on these tests. Someone has to go in. The equipment could fail. A hose could disconnect. You could be the one who blacks out while your saliva boils. Would you do it? LeBlanc did, and he survived. And space exploration continued because someone was willing to stand in that chamber and let the vacuum test him. The dead don't teach us lessons, The survivors do, 14 seconds. That's how fast physics reminds you that you don't belong in vacuum.